Welcome to Spectrum Sundays. I am Francesca D'Alessandro, a speech-language pathologist in New York City, empowering my community through A&D and awareness for neurodiversity.
And I am Megan Sinisi, Miss Pennsylvania 2021, a speech-language pathologist and the founder of a nonprofit organization for autism titled From a New Perspective.
Everyone deserves to feel accepted and included in every space they walk in. Our series aims to inspire you to advocate for yourself and on behalf of your loved ones, and we are so grateful that you're here with us today. Daymara Baker is a seasoned businesswoman and lifelong creative spirit with a heart for helping others. Co-founder of Northwest Arkansas Community Creative Center in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and a champion for Women's Foundation of Arkansas, Daymara knew immediately that a social enterprise like Rockin Baker would be a powerful multiplier for the community, using something as humble as a rustic loaf of sourdough bread as a catalyst for empowering the disadvantaged, breaking the cycle of poverty, and paying forward the gifts of self-sufficiency and fulfillment. Rockin Baker is currently run 100% by a neurodiverse team producing high-quality artisan breads for leading restaurants in Northwest Arkansas. So thank you so much for being here with us today. We really love hearing different perspectives from all across the country. And you often reference your work as a calling. So talk us through what the journey was like for you and what that looked like in discovering the concept of Rockin Baker and how you set your ideas into motion.
I would say maybe some people say that it was almost like a serendipity moment. When I disengaged from corporate life, I was on a plane to see my parents. And on the last leg of my flight, I was reading this book, Serendipity, and it was kind of funny because this movie began playing on my head on how to create a place where people could learn skills to facilitate the transition to get a job. At that time, I really thought that I was going to be helping mostly women out of the jail system because, as you know, they get out, nobody wants to hurt them, and then they go back because, that's all what they can do, right? Nobody's giving them a chance. So I thought, so what about if I use those skills to do that? But in that movie, everything was so, almost like so real that when I landed, I have goosebumps and I think, oh my gosh, what was that? And, I tried to push that away and I tried to read the book and that movie kept playing. And I said, well, I don't know what that one was, but maybe that is something that I have to do about it. So when I came back to the US, I met with an executive coach because I was trying to figure out what I could do next after leaving corporate. And I told her about this weird movie that happened to me. And she said, maybe do you think that maybe it's kind of something telling you out there that you need to do something different? And when she asked, what is stopping you from doing that? And I thought, well, really? After leaving my country to come to the US to study, I lost my savings over 64% overnight. And I thought, it cannot be worse than that. So I'm going to try to do this one. I have never worked in a hospitality industry in my life. I have never cleaned tables or anything. And there I am thinking about opening a bakery. So what I did, I was so focused on get this one done. I just used kind of my project management skills and developed my plan. And I set everything down. It's okay. I know that I have been baking bread for some time, but now I have to really formalize this training if I really want to open a bakery, especially with our experience. So I formalized my training in San Francisco Baking Institute. And then I became an apprentice in Cincinnati at a bake shop. And after that one, I just kept moving forward with my plan and open. And I had a set date when to open. And I was determined to open that day. So I opened on Veterans Day, November 11, 2016. And of course, the bakery wasn't close to be ready, but I said, no, it has to be open. That's the only way to get it done. And so after that one, I have to say that I have been a journey. And as you can see, I just have to set something in stone to get it done. If not, you just talk and talk and talk and nothing happens. So in this case, I was so determined to make it happen that's what I did.
That is incredible. And if you don't mind me asking, which country did you come from and how long ago was that?
I am originally from Venezuela, from the ocean. So now I am here in the middle of the US, really in the middle of the US, no ocean around me, totally different. And that was 2000. Oh, I'm going to age myself. 2096.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
I am also from Hispanic heritage. My family is Puerto Rican, and they had also moved from the island. And it takes such heart and strength to rebuild yourself from the ground. And especially with you, you really catapulted yourself with your business. So we are so just glad to have you on here today and sharing your story. Thank
Oh,
you.
thank you.
Yes, and I think your story specifically, it just is a testament that it's never too late to dream a new dream and to always follow whatever it is that your vision is in life. And for you, it was something you were so compelled to help others. And although you came from a corporate background, your skills really transcend to the business world as well for you to be an entrepreneur and make this really such a successful business for not only you, but the people that you're employing. So we wanted to know a little bit more about your specific vision for Rockin Baker and maybe how people can get involved in supporting your organization.
Oh, I would love to share that because I think more people should know something that is happening at the bakery. This is a commercial bakery. As I originally said, I was really focusing on women out of jail. And I was doing all of that one until a mother with a daughter on the autism spectrum came to me and said, "My daughter loves to bake, but she's never given an opportunity. She's very smart, but everybody treats her that the only thing that she can do is just open boxes and make bowls at the bakery. That's all what she's allowed." And honestly, I had never had experience working with people on the autism spectrum. And I just told her, "Oh, bring her over. I just use common sense. That's all what I can do, right?" And of course, she laughed. And later she told me, "Oh my God, she doesn't know what she's talking about. But okay, let's try. At least she's willing to give Leah a chance." She came over. And of course, that was a huge learning experience for me. And that's when I decided to say, wow, these kids, nobody is really giving them a chance. They're treated with this all of these stigmas and stereotypes that is so wrong. And that's when I began, again, using those skills from corporate. I began focusing on doing research, really reliable sources and videos, and trying to talk to the parents for me to educate myself how it is to work with somebody like them. And I learned that they took everything so literal. So that's something that I have to learn. I couldn't say, "Hey, just add a pinch." They didn't have a concept what a pinch was. And every time that I said, "Hey, let's rush a little," for them meant running out of the bakery. So there was a lot of communication happening going there. But it was such a great experience for me, and also was such a eye opening that I said, if nobody is giving them a chance, they're leaving high school and then they fall into this cliff. All the resources are left behind and they don't have anything to count on. And that's when I decided, well, I think I'm just going to stay focused on education, learning skills on the job. But now I just going to switch. And instead of helping women out of jail, I began helping all of these kids. So she came with me, and then I have another kid that I had not realized that I have been working with him, and he has also some special needs. And it seems to be that everything just began falling into pieces, and the word began spreading around what I was doing. I partnered very closely with the Arkansas Support Network. That organization supports kids with some type of disability, and I just began learning more and more and more. And I have them coming to the bakery, and I mean, it was such a my gosh, the experience was so unreal to me because I could see all the talent just hidden behind these people. I mean, like I'm almost like at this wall that people didn't want to go through. And I just let them, I don't want to say play. I wanted them to try things without the fear that somebody is going to get on them because they made a mistake. I wanted to be a safe environment for them to try whatever they wanted, not whatever they wanted to without the limitation, what they thought that they could do. And really what we discovered is that they have so much talent hidden that it was almost like an unpolished gem that they began just flourishing and coming out. And I mean, that now I can say the bakery is totally run by a neurodiverse team, 100%. I never thought about that. I always thought that I have to be behind, but now that I can say that they can do it and it's proven there. And also, I wanted the bakery to be able to have a product that was really, really high quality. I didn't want people to come and buy out of pity, number one. Number two, I wanted them to feel really proud of the work that they were doing. I didn't want to have another coffee shop that they're just allowed to press button and serve coffee. Because I said, no, they can do more than that. If you give them a chance, they can surprise you a lot. So we just developed this different tools, and now they're running the bakery. And really, when you come to our area, you can go to all the really nicest restaurants in the area, and you can say, oh, that bread is coming from Rockin Baker. And they are doing all of that by themselves.
That is seriously just so incredible to hear your story of how you were very adamant about giving opportunities. I think I see two themes within your work and your story. It's opportunity and community. And those two things coupled together with anybody who's trying to have either a second chance at life or even prove themselves in the world around them that isn't always molded to fit their needs, that's going to build their confidence. So it's amazing to hear from a direct pillar of those two characteristics of opportunity and community, to make sure that the people that you employ, they can go on beyond Rockin Baker and take these skills into life and to be independent contributors to society and feel confident that they have the skills to do that on their own. So I just commend you so much for everything that you stand for in your mission in life.
Well, let me share one with you. As you know, when they come to you, they're lacking all of this confidence and self-esteem. And that's what we're trying to give them a space when they can develop all of that. So now we have two of them. I promoted to managers at the end of last year. So one is my production manager and the other one is my bakery manager. The production manager, guess this one, he bought his house. So he's now totally independent, paying for his own houses and all the utilities and everything that goes about running a house that is very complicated. And on top of that one, he's also running my bakery. And he's only maybe 23, 24 years old. So I just want people to understand that they need more credit than what people are giving them. And they can do so much more. It's just unbelievable.
Right. And what's so interesting is that at one time, someone may have looked at him and said, you can't do these things. Oh. And now look at him. So it's just amazing to see that transformation. And hopefully through this conversation, people can give a little bit more leeway and let go of that stigma a little bit to have people meet their full potential.
I was also going to say a common theme I am hearing from you is presuming competence. And Megan and I are both speech language pathologists, and that is something that is really important to remember for us in our field is these individuals, they need support in different ways and unique ways, but they are competent individuals. And for you to recognize that is so important, especially as an employer. And I heard you mention a little bit about stereotypes. And if you feel comfortable sharing, what was one specific stereotype that was completely shattered for you when you were working with the neurodiverse community?
As I said, because I didn't have any experience working with them, I really didn't recognize some of the traits that in the past, I'm guilty of it. When I saw someone, I said, oh, that person is kind of slow. That person doesn't want to look at me. And then I realized one of the traits that they have, they really have a huge challenge making eye contact. I didn't know that before. So I was trying to blame that on something else. And I understand, well, now that I know that, I can pass that stereotype that I cannot trust them because they're not looking at me. So I have to focus on something else. And that's what I'm trying to also educate people here in the community, especially employers, that you may think that they're not listening to you because they're not looking at you, they're not giving you the typical signals of a neurotypical. But let me tell you, they're recording everything that you have said, and they can almost replicate everything. So don't be fooled by them not filling the typical box or checking all the marks that typically we have to check, because they just think differently. So you have to open your eyes and specifically begin accepting that things can be done differently.
Yes, and along that same concept of neurodiverse traits, what are some talents that you specifically see amongst your neurodivergent employees and how that might bring value to your company?
Oh my gosh. I just can give you an example that happened last night. Um, First, one trait among all of them is loyalty.
Mm.
These are the most loyal employees that anyone can have. They're totally dedicated. I guess you have read all in the news about the great resignation and all these employers not being able to find people to work for them and labor shortages or whatever. Well, I had never had that problem. Even when our revenue was down, that we didn't have any output to have all of this production going out, these kids wanted to come to work. And I just have to find ways to make it happen. And that's when I began producing for food banks and schools to keep them employed, because they were crying. I mean, really, so when can I come back to work? Okay, tell me other people who are crying to come back to work. Only these kids. And the example that I wanted to give you is because I'm giving my production manager the room for him to grow and learn. He underestimated the inventory or how much it was going to be used by this restaurant. And when we spoke about it, I said, hey, I'm afraid that you produce too little for the weekend and all of that. It's going to be a nice weather and all of that. And I didn't realize that he has been so worried about that, that as soon as he saw that when the inventory came last night, he realized, yeah, they're not going to have enough for Sunday, without telling me anything. He went to the bakery, produced the product by himself, got everything done, delivered to the restaurant. And of course, I'm not aware that he's doing this. So I just texted him, hey, you may want to tell the restaurant that they might run out of the product and that we don't have any more at the bakery. And that's when I learned, no, I couldn't sleep because of a mistake that I made. So I came, I made more bread, and I just delivered that one to them. Okay, tell me who else can do that one? I mean, I'm just telling you this one. I'm almost about to cry because I have worked with so many people, and I have mentor, and I have people under my supervision and everything. Honestly, this is the first time that I ever have an employee taking that level of accountability for what he said was a mistake. Really, it wasn't a mistake. It was a simple miscalculation that it can happen to anyone. And he just took that one to himself to do it and make it work, solve it, and then later tell me, it's done. I fixed my mistake. And by the way, I volunteer my time because it is my mistake. Hello, who else can do that?
Right. And one of the best pieces of advice I have been given as a young professional is to never assume something is not your job, or never to back away from something and say, well, that's not my job, so I don't need to do that. And this is just a testament to how a neurodivergent individual may hold themselves accountable for the things that just, are ingrained in integrity and doing the right thing. And like you said, it wasn't a mistake, it was just a miscalculation. It can happen to anybody, but the fact that he went the extra mile to make sure it was done right and then demonstrated that commitment to excellence, I think that's a perfect example of the skills and range of talents that neurodivergent employees bring to any company. And I hope that is a very valuable example for employers that may consider hiring those on the spectrum or those that have any neurodivergent characteristics.
And I will say this is one of the traits that I didn't know that it was common, and that's something that I have noticed. Every single one of my cadets share the same trait. When they make a mistake, they own it 100%. They don't find excuses to blame somebody else. No, this is my mistake. What can I do to fix it? And most of the time, they say, how can I pay for the bread that I burned or whatever? I mean, I don't have the heart to make them pay, but just the fact of them saying that, and they really mean it. It's just not like a say it. They really mean what they're saying. And to take that ownership, that I just wish more neurotypical would do the same. I mean, everything would be so much better. And that's what I want employers to see, that they're missing such a big talent pool out there because they are not looking beyond, or they cannot make the eye contact, or they'll say the typical stereotype that I have for an employee. Sorry.
And something like you, which you said is important, is the loyalty to the company. But oftentimes neurodivergent individuals don't feel like they're valued in the workplace. So you must be doing something right. And if I could pick your brain a little bit, what recommendations do you have for helping ensure an inclusive hiring process and making those individuals feel valued in the workplace so that they stay and can keep their jobs and be successful in their own individual ways?
I would say number one, employers in general, specifically hiring managers, they have to open their mind and they have to change the checklist to be able to give these kids the opportunity to get a job. If you're expecting them to come to an interview and behave like a neurotypical, they're going to fail. So that means that you have to change your hiring practices. Especially now that I find it really challenging for them, because almost anytime they apply for a job, it's all digital, right? They're going to have a hard time doing that. And so most of the time, they're not going to be able to pass those filters. So that means that they're going to get less chances of being hired by those type of technology that and platform that you have out there. So really, it is more about, it's not only the face-to-face interview, it's also what these companies can do with the technology and the different hiring platforms that they have to be able to facilitate that one for them, because sometimes they are not really good at that. Sometimes they don't really have the strong skills to develop the right resume. If they cannot do that, they're never going to get a chance to work with anybody else. So I think there is a lot to be done, but I really hope that employers begin changing how they think about their hiring practices, because they're totally missing this talent pool that is out there, so willing to work and willing to be loyal to someone to pay back, that we just have to be able to connect those two.
Exactly. And something I've learned in my own advocacy is that these types of accommodations and the different ways that you can make an inclusive environment, that's not only beneficial to those with disabilities. I hear so many more times than not that most people benefit from these types of accommodations, not just those with disabilities or those on the spectrum. So when you think about an employer, and what you might say to encourage them is that it widens your pool, not just to those that have very unique skill sets that can bring value to your company, but just gives you a whole nother pool of people that across the spectrum beyond disabilities can really help you find your best employee or whatever it is that you're looking for. So I think that that's incredible advice to make it more user friendly from the digital side, and then thinking outside the box of how to make an inclusive environment in the hiring process. And I know that that's something that Fran is very passionate about. She wants to make sure that there's employment opportunities for people with disabilities in the workplace, and we have to start reshaping how we navigate that.
Yeah, and I would like to add, because it's not only changing the hiring practices, because that's one part of the question. The other part is also training the current employees in your workforce, Because if not, these kids are going to be fired in less than a month because of the miscommunication that is going to happen. One of the traits, they're very black and white. I mean, if you come to the bakery, if you're making the bread that is not right, forget about sensitivity and all of type of things that you have to worry about. They're going to say, no, that one is bad. You have to redo it. You're really bad at doing that. You know that. They don't have the filter. So imagine if you are in a workplace, somebody that doesn't understand how to work with them, they're going to get quite offended, especially if it's going to be a supervisor. I have cadets who have proven that they can do so much more, who have been fired before, and then when I see it, I totally understand why. I say, yes, of course she's going to get fired. The way that she speaks, she's going to tell you what's wrong with you right away, unless you really understand that how that they speak and you're really willing to take it, because really if you're bad, they're going to tell you that. Okay, how do we make sure that those people who are going to be working with them also understand their traits so that they can learn how to communicate better?
I love that you bring that point up, because we often see that those with disabilities or who navigate the world differently, the expectation is put on them to change for the world around them. And it's not looked at enough as a two-way street. And that's what you're talking about. So now your Rockin Baker company is 100% employed by neurodivergent employees. But at one time, maybe you had a mixture of employees. So what did you see in your staff, how their perspectives may have changed over time in working with people who navigated the world differently?
And I think, that's a really good question because, yes, I have, when we were transitioning from neurotypical to neurodivergent, I have that mixture going on, and I still have some who are neurotypical, and those who were not willing to adapt to the needs that we have at the bakery, those are the people who are no longer with me, because I cannot force everybody to change and learn. And they were not willing to take whatever they're saying, just what it is, and not be offended. And there were, a lot of confrontations. But I was so focused on my mission that I was willing to train them better, even though if that person needed to go. I knew that there were more people out there willing to learn how to work with them. And those who have decided to stay, I mean, the communication is unbelievable because they know and they tell me, Daymara, I just wish more people would tell me when I'm doing something wrong without so much sugar coating that I don't know really what they're telling me. The feedback is so clear. I know I did something wrong and I know where and when, so I can fix it. When I go back to my regular job, it is so hidden in the feedback that honestly I'm lost. So that's one benefit. You're going to know where the mistake is coming from right away. So that's one of the things that has also helped our team. Personally, I have to say I am kind of a type A kind of personality. Get it done fast, push hard, like everybody does. Well, I have to say with these kids around, I have learned to be patient as you don't have an idea. I have learned that sometimes I have to bite my tongue more than once, think, how am I going to say something? So I have now, thanks to them, I feel that I'm also a better manager because I tend to see beyond the obvious. And I believe that in the long term, that also makes me a better person because it has made me more, not only be more patient, but also I think has brought my empathy to a different level. Because now when I'm going to say something, I just trying to think about if I am in their shoes, what would I do differently? And I think that's one of the biggest benefits from all of this enterprise, that it has really made me a different person. I am more, I am more empathetic to the needs. And when they're talking to me, of course, that my first reaction is going to be, okay, Daymara is Daymara. I mean, it's really hard to change. Okay, let's do it. And then I have to really step back and I say, okay, this is not Daymara. This is somebody else who has different needs. Let's think about it. How do we make it work? And let's try to think how she's thinking so that I can give a solution or an advice that could work her way of thinking, because my way of thinking is too fast. It's not going to work for her. So that has forced me to slow down and really be a little more creative when I'm giving feedback. And if I give feedback, if she does, for example, like an example, if she doesn't understand my feedback, okay, I have to think again. How do I say the same in a different way so that she gets what I'm trying to teach her? So I have to say that right there is creativity 101, because it's forcing me to find different ways to communicate with them.
Thank you so much for being vulnerable and explaining how you and your perspective has changed over time, and just being accountable for that and saying, well, I really didn't understand how to incorporate these individuals at first, and I adapted and I changed my mindset and I learned to be more patient, more empathetic. And that is so important, not only as employers, but as colleagues as well. And you are creating a culture and a morale in your company that is accepting of others despite their differences. And I love that you mentioned that the compliment sandwich doesn't always work for everyone. And some people need more direct feedback, which is a really good thing to mention, because I think most employers do use that compliment feedback protocol. So I think it's good to get a feel for who your employees are and adapt for each individual person. But as we're closing up today, what is one idea or message that you would like our viewers to remember from the entire conversation that we've had so far?
One idea, I think, is going back to open your mind and accept there are different ways to be. There are different ways to behave and to communicate, and to obviously, by having this open mind, to look beyond the obvious. And I think that you're going to begin seeing them in a different way.
Thank you for that advice. I think I need to write that on a sticky note, look beyond the obvious, and just keep that in mind in my own self-awareness. And being intentional, I think, is really the underlying concept of when you give this feedback, is being intentional about how it may be received by what you now understand about the people that you work with. And I think that's something that can be so admired. And I hope that everyone that's been watching today has been able to take away some really good nuggets of information to then implement in their own lives, especially if they're employers, because you're living proof that it's possible to employ those with intellectual disabilities, developmental disabilities, and those who are neurodivergent. And we need more of that, and to make sure that every space in our community, in the workplace, etc., is inclusive. So we thank you so much, Daymara, for being here and visiting with us on Spectrum Sundays. And if you were watching this episode today and you would like to learn more about Rockin Baker, please make sure to check out rockinbaker.org. You can also find Rockin Baker on Facebook at facebook.com/rockinbaker and on Instagram at Rockin Baker. For inquiries about Rockin Baker, you can email hello@rockinbaker.org. Thank you everyone for watching, and we will see you next Sunday.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Spectrum Sundays. We are your hosts, Francesca D'Alessandro
and Miss Pennsylvania 2021, Megan Sinisi.
Please make sure to subscribe to our series and follow us on social media to stay connected to neurodiverse professionals and self-advocates.
And remember, true impact is accomplished through active listening and exploring the world through a variety of perspectives.
Join us next week on Spectrum Sundays to cultivate a community of appreciation and acceptance around neurodiversity.